front page of the Hobart Mercury, and here's a story. Staying in sport, but a very, very different sport. You can bank on it. The AFL side to deliver 110 million and 360 jobs. Will there be a team, Michael Pachi, in Tasmania called the Devils? If the AFL has its way, there will be. What do you reckon?
Well, look, hasn't this story about an AFL team in Tasmania has been going for years? And I know during last year's election, a little while. And now, look, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, at last year's federal election, Bill Shorten and Labor had promised some money to try and get an AFL team happening in Tasmania. But look, if anyone can get some sort of football team happening in Tasmania at a professional level, I do think it's the AFL. I do think that the AFL does these things a lot better than the rugby league, the NRL, and obviously rugby union. That's a completely different story. They're completely off the grid at the moment. No, they're not. But I think that if anyone can do this, it is probably the AFL. And Tasmania is an AFL town. Is it Hawthorn that's already, I think, playing games, some games in Tasmania? So you know, Caroline and Gemma, you come from AFL cities. Jim and I from NRL cities. But look, I do think that if anyone can do this, it'll be the AFL. And I think that the AFL does these things well and can make it work and financially viable. And that's the main thing here.
Caroline, I'm going to let you, a dirty West Coast Eagles supporter, have the last say on this one. Go the Pies, by the way. Can't wait for this season. Go Pies.
My go now?
Yeah, you'll go.
Thank you. Look, the AFL has been doing this for a long time. I think South Melbourne was the first team that moved out of the VFL as such and into Sydney, and then obviously the Brizzy Bears and West Coast in '86 for the '87 season. So they've had plenty of practice. They've had 30 years of doing this. They've managed to get another team into Queensland, 2 teams into South Australia, and a couple of teams into, you know, flat out enemy territory in New South Wales. So I think Michael's exactly right. If anyone's got a chance of doing it, it's the AFL. And if it along with the football, there will be tourism, there will be jobs, there will be all those associated industries which are going to get a leg up in addition to just what the team itself will bring to the state.
I reckon if the AFL want it, I reckon it won't be too long before it finally happens. So watch that space.
Can I just jump in?
Please do.
Very quickly, maybe the AFL, and I don't know a damn thing about AFL, to be honest, as Michael said. We're an NRL town. But I'm sure Australian rugby could learn something perhaps from the AFL on how to operate.
I think you're right.
Because there's so much going on there at the moment that it's almost like they're deliberately trying to drive it into the dirt. So I'm just saying that you look at the dynamism of the AFL and you look at what's going on with Australian rugby and you think, what the hell? How can they? It's chalk and cheese.
Do you know what I reckon it is? I reckon it for all of its you know, tiptoeing, I think a little bit into social engineering. The AFL kind of got slapped pretty hard back by the clubs themselves and the supporters themselves. My observation as a non-rugby union person is that the AFL is not political. It's not trying to tell people, for the most part, how to live its lives, and I think that's probably one of the big differences. That's just my outsiders non-rugby union person. But I'm not a rugby league person, but I do have a team. Apparently, I follow the West Tigers. I don't know if they're any good. Well, you know, it's a loose relationship. Let's put it that way.